Yeah, man. This is what we do around here. We break it down. It's not often. First off, shout out to the guys at Team House who did a great job getting all of the big parts of the story. Everybody should watch that. I'll put that in the links, and you guys can watch your episode. It's great. It's like 2 hours, like a marathon.
2:30. It's a 30 minutes bonus segment.
Oh my God!
Which you guys have to. You have to support the podcast itself. It's not free. The last 30 minutes, but it's really cool episode, cool moment. Okay. 30 minutes as a bonus. If you can survive these 2 hours.
Yeah. Well, I think you can because you did a great job. One of the things that's really cool about what we did is, so I was a counterintelligence agent in the Army, for everybody who doesn't know, and then you worked in the FBS, and very similar jobs, totally different missions. I don't think we ever possibly could have crossed paths, but it's not often you get a chance to hang out with another guy who's worked internationally in the spy business. It's really neat to be able to do this, but we're not going to talk about that stuff that much because you're also doing different things that are also equally exciting.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, I do have, let's say, some experience, slightly over 10 years in Russian FSB. It's kind of former KGB, if most of the people know it. My specialization was counterintelligence, and especially line of work is a financial market. So last assignment, work in a bank. Before that, as an operative on precious stones, precious metals, art, rare materials, and radioactive materials. And before that, investigator on espionage cases. All forms.
When the thing about counterintelligence agent, or the work is, it can be anything, right? Like you focused on financial and the areas that you just discussed, but you could also look at, you could be the person who runs lie detector tests and does just investigations. You could be a person that in places or looks for people who put bugs into place. You could specify, like you can do specifically just work in surveillance and counter surveillance and counter surveillance. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. How did you end up where you ended up in counterintelligence?
Well, I mean, initially, as a whole service idea, Russia had and maybe still have, same as it was here in States before, like late 70s, and as it was in Britain till 90s. It's called the Old Boys Club. Basically, system is trying to supply itself from within the system. So if your family was somehow affiliated to the Soviet or Russian intelligence, counterintelligence service agencies or military intelligence, you basically have this lucky ticket to go into the system as well. Majority of the cases is more as you will be voluntarily pushed to do this job. So it's kind of, you sort of have option not to do it, but most likely you don't. You have to join. You have to go. So that was exactly my case as well. So it's I can't say it was my dream job, but that I guess was kind of where I was supposed to go.
What would your dream job have been? Like, I mean, that's pretty damn sexy doing, counterintelligence world, work in GEMS and all the other things. What would you have rather done?
I don't know. Like I was, it is a good question, but I guess I was not able to even to found answer back then because I can't say drafted, but I joined the service right after my high school. So I was 16 years old when I was for the pre-academy training, and then 17 I joined the academy. So basically I had no time to make a decision and just figure out what I want to do. Small disclosure, during I was in school, I was also going into the art school. So kind of I'm a sort of a painter. I'm not sure I ever used my skills for normal life, but it was really helpful actually when I was doing my work. Because if you have training in the art, first it will help me later on when I was an operative, but before that it was really helpful with like photographic memory. So sometimes if you're going and driving somewhere, you don't need, like you can do it once with a map and a second time you already remember it all. Same thing is about people too. If you saw someone ever before, you're going to memorize some features at least, and you always catching some small elements, like let's say the posture, the way person is walking, talking, making some kind of a really specific move. So you as an artist, you're catching these small tiny elements. Actually, then later on working as an operative is really helpful because you know who's following you. People maybe can change their clothes, but they can't change everything completely. So you always can see that's okay. I saw it already. If this guy was exactly limping like that, or he was holding his cup or some keys exactly the way you already saw before. So it's all helpful, but at some point going to make you a bit more paranoid because you have to. I mean, there's not so many different patterns. People sometimes they have similar habits. So in this case, it's going to make you nervous that you already saw it before, and you're trying to figure out always like where I saw it, or who's this guy, and why he's walking behind me. So.
It's such a great point, man. I mean, a lot of what I do is an art, right? And I'm sure it's the same thing for you. So if I'm asking someone a question, I often, with what I did, because I worked with an interpreter, I could kind of go back into my own head and paint the picture on the wall. I called it painting the picture, and I would look and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I have no colors over here. I have to ask questions about this part of my painting because what they're telling me, I'm missing this whole piece. And so I really would think like an artist, and you're 100% right on looking for patterns, and there is an art to that. I might sing a song, brown shoes, black pants. I saw brown shoes, black pants, and then as you're doing surveillance or counter surveillance or counter, you're looking for these things so you can identify something. And you're right, it's the little things. I once went to a job interview when I was trying not to be a spy anymore. And because of what we do and how we take in a room, I sit down, boom. And the guy says, hey, on my screen is a screensaver. Did you happen to see it? And I told the guy, yeah, of course. And he's like, okay, what was it? And I'm like, it was in the old days, right? It was the moving brick wall, like it looked like Nukem. And he's like, you were the first person to get that right. How did you get that right? And I'm like, well, it's a skill that we develop, right? I mean, you have it on. I can go back into my head, and there's a video in my head, and I'm like, yeah, I saw it. It's this. And then I said, and by the way, and then I told some other stuff that I'd seen, and he was like, remarkable. I didn't get the job, but he thought it was remarkable.
I guess you just scared the person. So, and also the kind of downside of it as well, that while people trying to interview you, if you're going for a job, for example, in about 85% of the cases, end up that you interviewing them after all. So you'll be asking them more questions, trying to dig into them instead of they can get any information from you. So, and this is kind of not, in the case you're trying to find a normal job in a normal world, it's not going to be helpful. Yeah, because you just kind of, you're taking over the situation and you have advantage, that's for sure. And again, back to the art, rule number one, never leave anything like a blanket on a canvas. So it's supposed to be no white spots. And when you're doing the profiling or you're doing any kind of investigation work, analytical, whatever it is you do, line of intel or contra intel, never leave the blanket spots, like the open spots. It's all supposed to be covered, or at least some kind of a transition, let's say, between colors, but something that can be open.
One of the other things that's a problem with what we do is we see a lot of things we're not supposed to see because there's secrets that we're not supposed to get. And I especially mean like when you're around friends and you see, like, for example, a couple, and you look, I'm not a body language expert, but I do understand body language. And so when you see it, you're like, oh no, they're having trouble. Oh my gosh, And then when someone's like, oh, they broke up, and I'm like, yeah, I've known for a while, because you see it in how they interact or the stories they tell. And so it's a passive form of collection. And I'm sure you must do the same thing. You're like this, and it gives, how I work it is I see the thing. And then if I'm in an environment where I have to find out about things, then I will go, okay, I'll test my theory here. Is this couple in trouble? Now, I don't do this in real life because that would be inappropriate. But when you're working against an enemy, you're trying to find these patterns. And so when you detect something, you test it. So is this true? And then I might go all the way around the block and talk to somebody else about this thing and see if I can make a path back to this reality that I think I've seen. But when you're home, it does pop up and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just saw this thing.
I guess I can express it in a way of like, you're like a shark, basically. You have to circle around. Before you're going to jump and attack, you have to do the circle, another circle, another circle. I'm not sure it's appropriate joke on the live stream, but anyways, the sharks are doing this because the human beings or surfers, kiters, or anyone else who's doing some water sports are way tastier and cleaner without crap in them. So you have to circle around and trying to figure out what's going on and just make this picture as bright and clear as possible and connect all the dots. So yes, and also the problem, I guess, again, it's just maybe it's like completely unique to my case, but I'm not sure about that. Your brain is never off, so it's kind of constantly processing this. And it's like you're doing multiple operations simultaneously. So you can talk to people, but you still have this thought stuck in your head, and you just can, it's circling back and forward, and you're building this kind of like a snowball. Or maybe opposite, you're just trying to open and get into the core, like a Russian doll thing. So just open. But it's in the majority of the cases, because it's a normal life, it's just a Russian doll. So it's going to be nothing in the end. It's going to be the same doll that it was in the beginning. So you just wasted your time about like 2 days just trying to figure out what's going on. And then after all, it's just a normal thing.
Yeah.
So this is true as well.
This, I got to say, yeah, I was doing surveillance, and we were following someone from another country, and they all of a sudden, and we were in the United States. And so this person from another country went across several lanes of traffic to drive into a gas station. And all of this counterintelligence guys are like, ha ha, this is the secret meeting. You know, let's prepare to put a guy into that gas station. And I'm like, what if he's just getting gas? You know? And you know what it was? He was just getting gas. But we're all so paranoid. Like, he bought Hostess ding dongs. And I'm like, yeah, I would too if I was Chinese. I'm like, what the hell are those? I'm gonna, I would be buying all these things. But we wanted to read something into all of it. It's really funny.
Once our guy's been, again, same story. So we've got on the ear that there is a potential suspect, like the guy's living the same spot, and he might gonna go somewhere and just drop something, like a dead drop in the forest. So team was following him, and that's ended up he was not doing any kind of dead drop. He was more breaking the law. He was littering. So he's got his garbage from his place. He drove down into the forest as far as possible area. Just got the two garbage bags, and they just dropped them in the forest. That's it. So, and then our surveillance guys, they had to dig it. So they had to get this correct, and then after all, they have to clean it back because nothing went in, just literally trash. And then they got the cops, and guys gave him a ticket. But again, that's how it is.
That is how it is. Yeah, we see something in everything, and really, from my experience, slowing down and letting things kind of come to you instead of like act. So it's funny, you mentioned sharks a second ago, and I wrote a note for myself when I was talking to you. It's like, counterintelligence agents are like sharks. We have to constantly move. It's how we find food, right? How do you...
Well, let's rephrase it. You're more alive as you're moving. You can't stop, because when you stop, you sink. So you have to do something. Like that's why you have to be kind of in the process, in the game all the time.
Yeah. So when you're doing whatever you're doing in Russian, we don't got to be specifics. I'm not trying to do that, but how do you build your day? You're like, I have to get up and go do work, right? And you got to write reports. And at some point you've done so much work, you have to stop working and you have to go write reports. And how do you set your day up on a day-to-day basis when you were actively working?
Well, I mean, you have to divide it between you have to do a bunch of the bureaucracy and then do a bunch of the normal work as well. So if people have some kind of illusion, it's more like a James Bond movie when you're running with a gun all the time and have some fancy things to do. It's not like you this might be like 10% of your day, but the rest is just a lot of writing, submitting, trying to get some approval, a lot of analytical work on your own, running around with all the requests and trying to collect as much data as possible. And of course, within this 10%, whatever it is 20%, you have a bunch of meetings with the potential sources. You're doing profiling, and you are kind of, in my case, you guys call here in States like case agent. So I was building my own network of sources. So I'm a recruiter. My job was to recruit sources among the Russian and the foreign businessmen on the line of my work. And then, of course, you have to kind of analyze all of this stuff, find potential way how to get close to some subject who potentially in future can be your source, as we call it agents, because of the organization where I was working, we have ranks, so we're officers, same as agency. And so, yeah, I mean, you get used to it. Initially, and again, comparing my case, it was way better in operative field than it was in the investigative field, because investigative job is more about the paperwork. It's paperwork after paperwork and more paperwork. Again, it's interesting at some point. It's a lot of legal aspects as well, but it's too nerdy. If you're especially a young guy, like you're 21, 22 years old, it's not what you want to do. You don't want to be a clerk. Not a clerk. It's like you have a lot of, again, this paperwork is basically killing the whole idea of just been doing this counterintelligence work. Right. So that's why they've been in an operative field, that's kind of more action. But again, action, it means like about 20-25% of the stuff. The rest is just, again, you have to dig into the piles of the paperwork and do it. So yeah, I guess after several, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, I found my own way how to survive it, how to do it. And of course, we're all, just like here, you guys, the operators, you have your own tricks how to avoid this bureaucracy, how not to get close to your boss and stay away as far as possible from the office, and maybe spend as less hours as possible inside and just more outside and just hang with cool people and just do the things which really matters. And what you think. But then again, still, after all everything is done, even like one tiny meeting with your source, which can go like for 45 minutes, then I have to go back and write this whole report. It's going to be it will be secret, classified, but again, you have to put it all on the paper after all. So doesn't matter how far you're going to run, you still have to go back and do it and put it all on the paper.
One of the things about being in the Army and doing counterintelligence is you needed a couple of things that you didn't always have. And so you had to work around them when you didn't. But what would be great to have is as a boss who had a big butt that could be chewed on all day by people above them. And I'm speaking colloquial, but you need someone that's not afraid of getting their ass chewed. Because if I'm doing my job right, I'm out all the time. I'm talking to people. I'm writing a report every day, every 2 days, something like that. Because sometimes it's like, today is just a piece of the puzzle. Let me go put more of it together. Then I'll put a slightly bigger report together. When I say big, I mean, with everything all in, and a lot of the words never change, or the same words all the time, maybe 700 words of analysis, right? Where there's something unique to say. So, but for me to do that, I've got to be out all the time. I've got to go do some drinking. It's got to look like I'm having a great time. And people above me, they hate that, but they can't do my job. And so you need a boss that it's like, you go do what you'll do. I'll take the butt chewings. We'll get the reports out and we'll answer their questions. The other thing is that unit that you would work with has to provision you and allow you to go out. Like if they're like, no one's allowed to leave the camp, you can't leave the camp. And like, you can't just walk off the camp and do what you want to do. You work within a system. And so you're always minding the shop. Like you have to take care of the client, the big Army client, your immediate client. You probably have 7 different bosses all asking things of you and not wanting to give you anything. And all I really need is to go out and go talk to people. But everything is against that very thing. Does that resonate with you?
At some point, yes. At some point, no, because we kind of it's you guys were military, so let's say it's more bureaucracy, like vertical command thing as well. In our case, we do have ranks, but we are at the same time more as a spy agency. Mm-hmm. So basically, your job is the idea is like they ultimately don't care what you do, but you have to bring the result. Mm-hmm. So look at this. You can go and meet with people. You can drink. You can, because maybe it's a process of the conversation, like building this relationship, establish it. But at the same time, if they call you, you have to be back and sober and clean. So it's up to you. It's your responsibility. So they delegate to you all of this thing as like responsibility, the way you control yourself, the way how you manage your time. But the main goal is result must be achieved and the job's supposed to be done. And you have a lot of time frames as well. So whatever you do in between, that's up to you. But finally, they're waiting for a result. As we say in back in Russia, as it's an internal more as like a short memo that basically every fail has its first and last name. So if something happened, something went wrong, it's your fault. So you need to find a way how to make it clean and be sure it's working without any fails, without anything going down. So they're not blocking you for going out and doing things, but at the same time, they're really strict on that you have some deadlines, you have some time frames, and everything's supposed to be accomplished. I'm not saying it's supposed to be done by books. So the main idea is a result. So that's why it's a difference between what we've been doing and what FBI is doing. So books is kind of, it's like hypothetical thing, right? Somewhere in the middle. Everyone is more focused on internal instructions and operational law, which is classified, compared to the like law. But again, there are some things similar, but some things quite different as well. So, but again, it's overall, I can say that both systems are pretty like evil brothers, like evil twins. Not much of the difference.
Yeah, and I would say this too about the military. You might get assigned to a unit that has no idea what a counterintelligence agent even is. Like they just don't know. And so I work for a medical unit. They might have an intelligence asset, but they don't know what they do. And now they really don't know what I do. And so when I'm going off the camp, just walking off, and they see me yucking it up with a bunch of, Slavs, they're going to wonder what the hell I'm doing, because that just doesn't make sense, because they fix broken bones and whatnot. So on my side of things, you had to manage that relationship so they understood the value that you bring, because they may not get it for weeks, even months, as you put together this network of sources that all of a sudden then starts to pay the bills. And they're like, oh, now I get it. But you had to survive those 6 weeks to 3 months before you could really start to put something together.
In our case, it's kind of, it's already like a part of what you do. So you don't need to explain it. So because your boss, he's an operative, or he was an operative before it, now he still has sources. Everyone is around you, they're guys operatives, and they're doing the same work as you, or plus minus some specification and specialization as well. But it's obvious for everyone that when you're doing this work, it's like gold mining. Just get into what you're looking for the nugget. You have to clean lots of dirt. You have to just excavate tons and tons of the ground just to find this one piece what we've all been looking for. Some cases can go for years, whatever it is, 5, 10, 20 years. Main goal is not to put anyone in jail. Main goal is just to be able to control the information, control this flow in the information, and be on the top of the game. Because 3 main principles, I'm sure you guys have the same thing, is basically detection, identification, elimination. So you have to find the threat, identify the threat, and then just eliminate the threat. Eliminate, in majority of the cases, doesn't mean that they're supposed to end up in a court. No, you have to find an operative way how to maybe derail what bad guys are trying to do, or maybe take it over through your sources or by yourself, and just to control it. So put it more in the way you need it from the counterintelligence perspective or purpose, or intelligence purpose, whatever it is. So everyone is kind of expecting. They know they know the game, they know the rules, they know how it works, and they're not asking you, or at least they're not judging you why you don't have information. It's not like police work. Why you don't have tickets, such and such tickets today, right? Or why you didn't stop so many DUI drivers? No one is looking for this. So it's more basically your time is infinity, but within it you should bring some results and show some progress as well. So it's kind of it's different. I guess it's hard to explain because you have to be within it, at least just to understand get this feeling how it works, the whole mechanics how it works. And again, all these connections within relationships and communication, logistics, is all really, really different from normal world. It's not a corporation. That's why it's kind of it's hard to explain how it works. It's more like a based on traditions, less than on some rules and regulations.
Right. There must be a squirrel in my backyard. My dog is barking. One of the things that we have on our end of it, and I'm talking strictly the military counterintelligence side, is you have different types of people, and they end up eventually in different types of job within our field. And there's a lot of different kinds of jobs, but there's a lot of counterintelligence agents that are cops. They want to put cuffs on people and put them in jail, even in a place like Afghanistan, where that's just really never going to happen. And then you got a guy like me, I want to be in the field. And if you can show me a bad guy, I want to meet that bad guy, because I either want to turn them into a source, I want to break into their network, I want to become their best friend. Because if I know the bad guys, then I know the bad things that are going to happen. I have a chance to get in front of those problems. And then you have the guys that are desperate to put the puzzle together. They want to take all the data and they want to smash it all together and tell everybody what they think is going on. And we need all these different people that build operations. Let's put Pete out in this valley because we don't know anything about it, and only Pete can go out there. And so all these different pieces of the machine individually, we can work well together, but it takes a real master to be able to put the different pieces together. Because look, the puzzle people, they don't belong in the field. They're not good at that. Some people are good at crossing over certain things, but from my experience, you really get good at one or two things. And from my experience also, the ones that think they're cops because we do have badges, they're terrible collectors. They're just focused on building a case, and we need those people in certain parts of counterintelligence. But what about on the FBS side? Do you guys have that? We have different personalities that kind of find themselves in different jobs. That make sense?
Of course, but again, it's different from you guys have multiple functions. For example, what I faced, right? So it's not exactly maybe how it was in your case, but you have to do the analytical work basically on your own, and then you have some kind of unit somewhere who can absorb and work with your information. You have special like SWAT guys, but you are part of the SWAT on your own, which we have on a separate unit. You have guys translators. Let's say if it's some kind of a rare language, as some Arabic or Pashto, you have local guys to use. But if it's something like European type of language, most of the guys, in your case, they know language on a basic level, so you could do this job as well. As for technical surveillance, you have to do it on your own. In our case, it's more you are a central piece of this whole work, and you just like orchestrating the whole operation. So you have guys from the special ops, they're like SWAT team within, but they're not operatives. They help. They can help you. They're gonna help and do work for you. You have technical surveillance. You have people who are sitting on the ears and listening wherever there's any communication from cyber to radio, just name it. Working on interception as well. Then you have translators. They have analytical department. So they kind of all around you, and you just centerpiece of it. So in this case, people who doing the work as an operatives, they really have this similar mindset, and they know where they're going and what they're doing. So people who really can't take it, can't hold it, work, especially because main idea is just work with other people. So you like an extra more. You have to interact with other people. You have to adopt yourself to and try to melt yourself and be at least at some point even likable by the person whom you're trying to recruit or who you already recruited.
Yes.
So it's more about the communication. You like more as a communication specialist or whatever it is, public relationship, but more like in a secret way to do it, to do this work. So it's a kind of combination. And people who can't do this job, can't talk to people, can't get into this line of work, they just leaving, and they're just going to work in other units where they maybe don't need to interact with people that much. They don't need to to be kind of a centerpiece as a person who's responsible for all of it. They might join whether it's analytical unit or go to some whether it's technical surveillance or surveillance guys. So it's because they have their niche and they're really good at that. But again, as an operative, you have to be flexible, you have to be mind open, and you can't judge like a cops. They're judging people. In your case, you can't judge people. You have to work with the material. It's up to you how you're going to use this material, the way you want to, how you want to, let's say, direct your source, train your source, work with your source. So it's again, as I said, like if you have a cop mindset, I guess maybe counterintelligence. It's like counterintelligence. It's quite not your area where you should do it. Maybe you can be wherever it is, like working somewhere like an inspector department, or just but maybe the best way is just to work in internal security, because they need this kind of type of mentality, because they have to judge you. They have to look at you as an enemy all the time. But if it's an operative, you can't look at people from the perspective white and black. It's just, no, it's supposed to be gray. Otherwise, you won't be able to work, because, and again, in my case, the best sources were the people who were the dirtiest ones. So the financial guys who were involved in all of this multi-billion-dollar operations, illegal operations, they were the best sources I get, just because they have so much knowledge, they have access to so much information. If I would have judged them as you guys are bad guys, no one's going to work with me. No one's going to. You have to think differently and look differently on the things.
Which makes you dangerous to the system, the situation, if they don't know to trust you, because you're going to go against people. My job was to meet the warlords, right? My job was to meet the most dangerous people out there. I'm going to go back and then I really want to wrap up the counterintelligence side, but it's just fascinating to me, and I'm sure it is to other people. When guys like you and I, with our skill set, we go out, you're part marketing person, you're part PR person, you're part communications, you're an artist, you're a party guy because you got to go out and be able to make friends. You have all these different elements, and it just you're a storyteller, you're a news reporter. All of these things you have to do. And Jan, there's just not enough time in the day to do all of it. Like, I mean, when I go and deploy 16 hours to 20 hours a day, because if I go out and do an operation, as you said, now I've got to go do tons of reports. I've got to do my fitness, my physical fitness, so I can maintain going back out into a hard place like Afghanistan. I mean, the list of things you have to do, it's just endless. how long can someone do what you did? And then what would you say the time demand was for you? Because you have to also be aware of the intelligence effort directed against you. And so that you're always, encoding and hiding and trace, talk about that demand on your time.
And also, I mean, you also don't forget that you have to travel sometimes outside the country as well. Just meet with your sources at least. So when all of this, look, there is no such thing as a work schedule. So basically, you belong to an organization, is what they told us from the beginning. There's no such thing as a work hours. Like you have to be at 8 and leave at 5. No, forget about this. No, you have to get as early as possible and then just basically never leave. They can call you just living in the office or like in this body of work. I can't say you live in office, like you're living inside the body of this bubble of work. You're in it. They can call you 24/7. They can get you back in the office 24/7. Always something happening. There was not a day when you just can chill and relax. There is no such thing as ultimately vacation. Potentially can get out for like a month or two, but they're still gonna call you. They're gonna ask you some questions, and you will be calling them back on your own. A great example, like this story from my past. I've got vacation and I went to my diving trip, like scuba diving into the Red Sea. So it's ended up that within a week I already found the person whom I later on recruited. And I had to just basically, and the person was right in the line of work I was doing, and I met him on a boat, and we've started to talk, and he explained what he's doing, what he's up to, and then I had to use my phone and just get back to the office and just explain to the guys what's going on, and they just gave me a green light just to engage with him. So basically, my whole vacation just turned to be work. So that's the thing. Like you can't leave it, you can't quit it. And again, I wish it could be 36 hours in one day, not 24. But again, you have to find a way how you can manage it. And of course, a lot of sacrifices as well. And such thing as whatever it is, family time, most likely no. It still will be something. You still will be even you with your friends. You're still kind of on your phone. And again, all your friends in ideal world is like in Hollywood movies. You have the guy who is a spy, and around him, basically neighbors, like normal, cool people. He's hanging with them, right? Like double life. In reality, most likely, all your friends will be people with whom you're working.
Yeah.
So just because you almost 24/7 with them, and your families already became like friends, and that's the thing. Like you're living this life inside the organization. So I guess that's maybe a long answer, but at least something.
It's a good answer, though, and you're right. The time demands. If you know Jack Barsky is one of the things. I couldn't do it anymore. I had a job where I made good money. I couldn't, upload, download, encode. He's like, I got worn out. And I'm like, yeah, man, I get it, because it is. And oftentimes we are the only person with that answer. So they do call you when you're on vacation. Hey, what about this? And you have to turn your own brain off, because your brain's like keyed on this thing. So you go on vacation. I would say it would take me, I don't know, 72 hours or so to get home, but it would take me a week to get my brain to slow down. Like I would mentally arrive, and I would never emotionally arrive. Like my emotions wouldn't have time to get through the process, and then I'd be back over there again, So it took me a long time to get home when I came home. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And and also, like when someone is, I mean, in my case, I'm lucky. My wife has the same training and background as I am. But what I heard from other guys, when the spouse, the family member, is not the same from the same organization, from at least like the same line of work on the same world, then they had a feeling that they are kind of physically here, but the mind is not here. So they sort of like listening and absorbing the information, but maybe they're not really reacting on what been their family members are saying to them, is like from the human being perspective. They just more, as for them, it's more like a secondary compared to what work is. This is the first thing. So I guess that's a big like a downside of any work inside the Intel Contrantel. You just work for you will be always first, and the rest of the things will be secondary, which is not really good.
When you and your wife figure out you got to run, you got to go, and you guys go listen to the Team House podcast. There's so much of this stuff in there. Why did you pick America to come to?
No, that's the thing. We never picked, and I guess I was able to. I'm not sure I was able to explain this on the Team House. But again, the thing is, we've got as far as possible from Russia, and really, why we picked Dominican Republic, we made this decision in when we were in Frankfurt. The main goal was first, like, get out. So we've got to the Frankfurt. In Frankfurt, we've got the connection tickets, and we flew to Dominican Republic. And the idea is, first of all, it's a huge time gap, so it's at least 12 hours we have, right? So that's advantage. Second thing is, there is no such thing as a visa for a Russian citizen to get into Dominican Republic. Even doesn't matter you have a travel passport, you don't need to get visa ahead, so they can't trace it. So that was another thing. Second, and a third, that there is no such thing as Russian embassy inside the Dominican Republic, at least back then. So it was a consulate with a local person running the consulate, so not even Russian citizen. So it means almost no attention from Russian intel or contra-intel agencies in this area, part of the world, because not much is happening there. So it's the Dominican Republic and Haiti, so not much is it, like whatever it is, drug trafficking or prostitution or human trafficking, but it's not related to any kind of intelligence operations. So we've got there. Then after some time, we spent, and we still been receiving some information from people who've been stayed loyal, my friends in Russia. We had a few burner phones. And when everything was escalating and just went south completely, we made a decision we need to get in touch with the Americans, which we did. And then the initial deal with the agency was kind of pretty simple. So I will help them to nab some guys who've been running multi-billion-dollar operations in Europe and Asia as well. And then on exchange, is going to be a set of the documents from the third country on our choice, which was Europe, and relocation to Europe. So it was no plan to go to the United States. It was kind of out of play completely. So, and actually with the agency it was fine. And my kind of idea was I was going to open some small flower shop in Portugal. So that's kind of a cool thing to do. And just you can disappear and just have a quiet life and no one know who you are and what you are. But then FBI got involved in the case because for them it was really a huge point of interest, especially because of their sort of like jurisdiction, this money laundering global operations, and because a lot of legalization involved in money legalization involved on U.S. soil and areas around the U.S., for example, like Bahamas or Panama. So it's all kind of within their jurisdiction. So they've got involved and they brought us to the United States. So it was a decision was made already when they extract us from Dominican Republic, and I guess and then in Puerto Rico, FBI took us over from the agency. So from this moment, we realized that we're going to the United States, but initially it was not a plan at all. So that maybe was kind of I don't know, like not misunderstanding, but not enough information out there about what exactly happened and how it was. But again, now it's it's 12, 13 years, and a project is coming, Almost American. It's already issue 1 was released, issue 2 as well, and issue 3 is pre-order right now. It's a graphic novel. It's a biopic graphic novel based on my and my wife's journey. Let's say our journey, and done by Aftershock. And you guys can see this story. It's not. I can't say it's 100% authentic. It's not about 95% authentic as it was. So graphic novel is inspired and based on true events. But you, again, some of these things and details you can see there. That's for sure. They Aftershock and the writer on Mars, they've been doing really great job on kind of to make it as realistic as possible, at least chronologically.
I love the idea of taking the story and turning it into graphic novels and doing the storytelling. I want to ask one more question about you guys' your career, let's just say in general. I know there are several points in time, and look, here I am talking to you, so it worked out, right? But there were several points in my career where I was like, I almost died. Like that easily could have gone a very, very bad way because the work we do is dangerous. And a lot of times we're protected merely by the trust we place in the other person. What would you say is the time that stands out for you that's like that, where your well-being was in doubt? It just worked out in this case.
Well, I guess at some situations it was just adrenaline, and you want to do it, and you're in it, and you're not evaluating this as a clear danger. Because it's all a combination between adrenaline, the work rush. You want to do this, and then the age as well. I was under 30, and for me, like the blood is running, and for you is just more everything is cool. Then you got realization later on maybe a year later, maybe half year later, like, what the fuck I was doing? Like, how, why,
Yes, exactly.
that's, and then, or maybe your colleagues can say, dude, you just like, you lucky one. It's like, why? I was like, well, I mean, just because this and that, and back in this moment, you was not even thinking this way. Like, you've been just in the moment, like a professional athlete. You're just playing. You're just doing this. You're not trying to evaluate how this looks like and what people think about you. Or you have to just do it. If this is supposed to be done, like, that's exactly like people doing some crazy saves, right? They're jumping, and they trust me. They're not thinking like, oh, I'm gonna break my shoulder. I'm gonna break my elbow. No, they're just doing this, and it's exactly what you have. So I had a few things, but again, it's still in my head. Like, well, maybe it was not that bad. Maybe it's like, that's not that dangerous. That's we potentially can avoid it. But again, maybe for other people, this could be like, that's like you almost it's like your second birthday or something. So you just, but for you again, because you in this moment, it's hard to say like exactly what it was and how it was. Because when you're doing this work, that it's dangerous. So that's kind of downgrading the aspect that this could happen on a daily basis, and especially if you're doing this again and again and again. When I was going on the meetings with the sources, and say most of my guys as well, we're not even been taking gun with us. So like, it's just like extra weight. You don't need it. Like, why? Like, what's the point of it? Like, you're dressed in a business suit. You look like a guy from the Wall Street, but at the same time, you're meeting with some really dangerous people. But again, you don't need the gun. You just maybe not going to take even your credential with you. You're just going to have your just cover documents, normal documents. Just go and meet with them.
Yep.
But that's the thing. Like, it's just different. You're just playing this game. You're in this character, and the danger is sort of like, it's basically it makes it, everything is even better. It's like, cool. Like, that's nice. Like, I have this kind of the like adrenaline junkie. I want to do it more and more and more without thinking this could bring you into any trouble. But again, if just cut all this, what was during the work, they really, like, when the moment I really realized that this is it was my last conversation before we left. When they gave me free choices, and thanks to my wife, I decided to pick the third one, which was basically the worst case scenario for Russians, because it's not part of our culture. They have more the choice to leave. That's the worst choice you can make. And the reason is you are, from this moment, you're not part of them. You're not part of the system. You are the traitor. You are discredited. It's more like in Japan, like a Bushido thing. So it's the same point. Like, you will do whatever it takes, but surrender, that's not going to happen. So in our case, it's the same story. But again, I'm here talking to you. That's why I picked the third one.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did, man. I'm glad. And as a fellow guy who understands every single thing you're saying, it takes time, and it takes your friends going. I realized just recently, I'm like, I was not really in a firefight, and they were shooting at a wall that was like 10 feet away from me, but I was safe where I was. It wasn't that big of a deal. Now, like, you were in a firefight and people were shooting 10 feet away from you were. And I'm like, but I was, I was in cover, and maybe something could have come through, but nothing did, and it blows them away, that level of danger. But for you and I, we're like, but I took measures to protect myself. And you're so right about not bringing a gun, because when you bring a gun, that's a different thing. And if guys like us are getting into gunfights, we're going to die because we don't have enough guns. We don't have enough friends. There's always going to be more people. We don't come with a group of, 25 people with us. We come with ourselves and maybe a friend. And if we get into gunfights too often, you're not gonna make it.
And also the gun is in a line of work like that, on counterintelligence, intelligence. Gun is more as a symbol of you bringing danger to people with whom you're meeting. It means you don't trust them. That's already a sign of mistrust, or you kind of trying to do something sneaky to them. So when you're going without that, it's more like, okay, he trusts us, at least what we can see visually, and there is no like visual aspect of the danger for them. So they can talk to you, and they're going to be less aggressive towards you as well. And also, here's a kind of interesting, what I again realized too, when you're coming without gun, and they, in their mind, when a person this explained to me later on, he said, well, when you talking to us and you're coming alone without gun, it means that maybe you prepared something worse for us than just a gun.
Oh,
Because it
okay.
means if you're going to talk to us completely like open, it means you have no fear, and also this means that you covered yourself completely, and there are maybe like 25, 50 guys like you just standing and waiting behind the corner.
Yeah.
So better just don't get involved in anything. Just that's interesting. It's
It is. Yeah,
so,
because the other side doesn't know what pieces you have either, and so we don't know. And you're right, the gun. Look, there's times when I had a gun. There's times when I ran with the platoon. But you're always playing pieces. Let's talk about what you're doing now. We've been talking too much about
okay.
the other stuff, but let's talk about where you're going and what kind of work. What the heck do you do for a living now, Jan?
So I was several years ago with my wife Victorya and my partners Dave, Pavoni, and Nicholas Leeds. They're both producers and writers from Los Angeles. We opened our small, we call it boutique production company called Fringe Kinolab, and we are working on multiple projects. We have some documentary. It's a non-scripted, as we say it, projects which are in development right now. We have several shopping deals with the networks. Hopefully we can sell them after all. At the same time, we can get a green light. We have several graphic novels projects. So one of them is Red Atlantis, which I already, I think I didn't mention. Project was released last year, November, so 2020. Original idea is kind of belongs to my wife Victorya, myself, and Nicholas Leeds. So my partner from Fringe Kinolab, we wrote this crazy story, which is basically a combination between some analytical work and predictions. My wife, she was doing some analytical research work, and at the same time with my guys, we've been developing a project based on long history of the Soviet and Russian paranormal research. Like it's like men who stare on goats, but about the Soviet programs. And one day, my wife she asked me to check a few things inside her paperwork, and then I was doing my thing, writing, and I merged the both projects. So that's why Red Atlantis was born. So there is a bunch of like really cool things in the story from real world, from real operations, and merged with some crazy Soviet experiments. Then we submitted this project for our friend to Aftershock Media, Aftershock comic company, and they accepted. And then they brought on board really amazing writer Stephanie Phillips, and we gave her almost full creative freedom because my project is my baby, and I was really fighting till the end. But after all, we just gave her whatever she want to do with that, and I stayed more as a consultant. The project is based on our original idea and written by Stephanie Phillips. Was released. Now you guys can buy it online, issue by issue. I guess you can buy the full 5-in-1 on Barnes & Noble. It's not a secret. I can tell you that now this project is being pitched for several networks, and we will see how this could end up. But fingers crossed, hopefully we can make a TV series from this. And especially in the recent situation with the Havana syndrome, there are some elements of that we described inside the story, which was written way before the Havana syndrome was disclosed. So, but it's really cool. If we can make the show, then we're going to put as much as possible stuff about this electromagnetic weapons, the ultra weapons, and so on. So another project is Almost American, which I already mentioned. It's a graphic novel. It's biopic graphic novel, which is I was really skeptical at the beginning when Aftershock offered it. The guys, do you want to do like biopic graphic novel? I said well, I never I even was not able to picture myself as a comic character, same as my wife. So yes, and the project was born. Now issue 1, issue 2 already released. Issue 3 is pre-order. You guys can go and check it. It's really like a human part of the story. So there is some danger elements, but again, it's just like following Victorya and my steps from Dominican Republic with several flashbacks and what was going on in Russia. It's overall really cool overall view and how it was. And I can tell you that there are a bunch of real people behind the story. One of them is Robert Whitman, who is an FBI legend. He's #1 art detective in the world. He was running this whole department for the FBI, a guy who found a bunch of the art and returned them back to the museums. Friend of ours who we met in Philadelphia in 2008, and we're still friends. He even was there, and he approved what was like with his few screens with his face. And there are several people from our past, my people who helped us a lot, like Ernest, Michael Wiles, Judy Snyder, Stephen Cash. They all will be in it as well in issue 5, which is they're working on. I can't give you what exactly will be there, but it's coming soon. Supposed to be released like in January, I guess, early February. So besides the Almost American, we have another project called Valhalla Baptized in Blood. Project was done and written by my company, our team. We've got private investor, no disclosure of the name. So it's a full-size graphic novel, 24 pages each issue. We're already finishing 3rd issue. It's more like a political thriller with lots of action in it, and hopefully we can release it within like next 5 or 6 months. I hope. So it's all you never know. Like with the artists and the writers, that's just a ridiculous thing. It's just humor is a gambling. Besides that, we are working with.
Besides that, like you just like and you've been busy, man.
Yeah, I mean, I have to make myself busy. That's the thing. Like, and I guess if I found a niche where I can do some work. Also, we have several projects right now. Kind of look. I never realized that how many guys from the spy and contraintel world inside the Hollywood, like inside this entertainment industry, my company teamed up with the CIA legends. They have Spycraft Entertainment guys. It's John Cypher and Jerry Oshie. The guy is like on the top of the world, and we're working developing one really cool project with them as well. Unfortunately, I can't release any name right now, but hopefully in the next several weeks it will be already official press release will be done and gonna go out there, and then we can talk about this. So yeah, I'm trying to make myself busy. And again, in this case, I want to say thank you to the U.S. government bureau organization, which gave me with their, let's say, the situation which happened in 2013 gave me so much free time, and I can focus on this entertainment, writing the stories. Because on the case of the employment, it's interesting. As you just described, I try to get like a normal full-time jobs, but it's all the time ended up that people, actually the companies here in States, they're more afraid of my former consulting work for US government agencies than compared to my Russian trainings. So I'm not sure what this is about, but they're more freaking out about work for US government than compared to what I was doing for Russian government. So yes, in this case, yeah, I'm just right now like 100% involved in entertainment, and so besides my work, I just consulting a few things, and that's I guess I just I really feel comfortable right now doing this, and also kind of a small, I'm not sure, maybe just my personal kind of feeling. We all know that Hollywood and entertainment industry, they're full of kind of a bullshitting and lies and a hypocrisy, right? But again, this is a part of the game, so you know when you're getting into it. You know what you're going to expect. And this is actually ended up more honest than if you do work for the government, because for government, you have a bunch of this stuff inside it, but on the surface, it's more like we kind of real, you can trust us, nothing going to happen, like we're all doing this right things. So what I found out that entertainment is more honest way, and it's more, at least now I know what to expect. So it's for sure will be kind of, it's going to be some, potentially could be some backstabbing as well, but you know what to expect when it's coming. So you already know with whom you're working and what you're doing. So I'm just enjoying this right now. That's great. And so again, as we say in Russia, it was, you've been counting on something good, but then something bad that happened. But this bad has really lead you to something really good as well, after all. So maybe I just touched the rock bottom, and then it's just right now it's going up. But again, that's just kind of overall, maybe long, but again, that's just overall.
No, I love it. And I love what you're doing. I'm excited about it for you. It's so neat. And one of the things I love about the modern time that we live in is other than James Bond and maybe Jason Bourne, the spy is usually like this bookish guy who's, not very athletic or physical. And, they're just like kind of completely forgettable. But the reality is the work we do, it's insane. And so I love that we have guys out there like, I'm trying to tell the stories. There's so many different spy podcasts that are trying to do it. You're doing it. And I love that we have the chance to really show the world, how complex and how complicated our jobs are. And then, yeah, sure, dangerous and sexy and exciting, because a lot of times it's boring as hell, like writing reports at 2 a.m. so you can get up for a 6 o'clock in the morning meeting, and no one wants to read those stories, but we're able to craft them on our own terms now instead of some kind of Hollywood thing. I want to ask you one more question. You can comment on that stuff in a second. If I was to grab young Jan, who lived in Russia just before he was about to get into the intelligence bracket, and I said, hey, man, hang in there. In about 20 or so years, you're going to be writing comic books and you're going to be pitching stories in Hollywood. What would that Jan tell this Jan? Because it's such a different world that you're living in America and pitching stories to Netflix or whoever you're pitching to.
Well, I would think that you have some mental issues. That's honestly, you're unstable, and you have some maybe some seasonal thing. But at some point, I kind of, it would have been thank you so much, but I'm gonna pass on that.
Right.
So that was out of blue completely. I never thought about this, and by the way, I got into this industry as well because my attorney, his former agency, Stephen Cash, his suggestion was like, you should check this out. Like, you maybe should go this way. You maybe should get inside the entertainment industry, because like there are a bunch of the guys who've been not able to find their way in a civil normal world from agency and other organizations. They are kind of right now doing pretty good in it, and you have this natural instincts which this kind of industry is required. And I said, well, maybe I should not. He said, like, yeah, well, check it. So that's the moment I started to get into these stories. So again, but 20 years ago, no, that's like gonna be just no. That's not gonna happen with me. That's for sure. And I'm not sure if we have time or not. But again, if I was actually playing a role in Hollywood too, which I guess you know that in 2013, it was 2012. I had I still was working for government. And I had to do some kind of a stress management, and going into this shrink is no go because I don't trust them. It's based on personal, it's like a professional thing. So I found a way how to do it. I went to the acting classes down in Portland. I found my teacher, Kevin Jones, with whom I was working out, African-American guy who's writing his own feature company. And he felt actually I was like a mid-age guy with a crisis who want to be an actor. In my case, I just tried to get out of the stress and just doing this work. So after all, he was kicking my ass to go and find an agent. I sabotaged all the attempts. Finally, one guy decided to sign me. He sent me on several auditions. And after all, I've got the part. So I got a small speaking part on TV show called Dream, which was going on MSNBC. And part was Austrian spy assassin to play. So I asked the government guys, I said, like, try. I mean, no one cares. It's a good paycheck and no one's watching the show anyways. So I got the part, and I ended up playing the small speaking role, and it was episode 14, Revelation, which is interesting name as well. And they killed me in this episode. But the interesting part is during the filming, the director came to me and said, like, now we're going to tell you how real spies are supposed to walk, talk, and what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So that was because he had no idea who I am and what I am. He felt I'm just a random guy with an accent who's just kind of got this part. It was kind of a really cool experience. And and then interesting thing is the episode was released in 2014, right after the closing ceremony of Sochi Olympics. And the worst part is it was broadcasted in Russia as well.
Wow.
So I got some kind of.
I guess some people did watch it.
Yes, and then no one was expecting this, so it was kind of oh my gosh moment from everyone who knew us, and that's
We've got maybe 2 more minutes. Do you want to ask me a question?
No, I guess we're good. So that's
okay. Good.
And you and I had the conversation before the disclosure. We had a conversation, so I got some information. So if you can ask me any kind of question, I'm happy to answer it.
No, let's wrap it because we're going to do this again. So let's just call this a good episode. I really, man, I dig it. I love it when I get to, and when you say that there's other spies out there that have struggled to find a corporate job, like that's my people, like I couldn't get hired anywhere. Like, what can you do? And I'm like, what can I not do? Like, let's just start with that's a shorter list. I mean,
and they don't need it. They need if you only can do one thing, and they don't need people who can do a lot of things.
yeah.
But design, like the way of operatives do the work, it's like you're basically everywhere. You just can be multiple personalities, multiple faces, and that's a huge problem as well. And you are sort of a team player, but at the same time, you're not the guy who's going to follow all the instructions from A to Z. Not going to happen. So you're going to always try to find the shortcuts and a way around it. And but again, still will be bringing the result, but it's not the corporate is expecting from you.
You are describing us to a T. I love it.